Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful. And the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, guys. I hope you are ready for today because it looks like we've got a real mess set up for us today. So if we come over here to the charts, you can already see it here in oil, but let's pop up our longer term chart. Where is my longer term chart? Oh, there it is. Volume profile. Okay, so really you see it in oil. Huge decline here. And the headline was that after the conclusion of Ukrainian-Russian peace talks, there will be a press conference. Now, everything that I have seen, okay, right now, I'm just seeing it right now. Ukraine's Podolyak says talks with Russia to continue tonight. So they said that there's going to be a press conference at the end of their talks, but now they're saying it's not going to happen, or it's. I'm just getting that right now. So the oil, S&P 500, everything dropping on that, or well, oil dropping on that news, S&P 500 gaining on that news. Some of those moves may reverse. Either way, they're kind of doing a knee-jerk reaction on not a whole lot of information here. And so we're likely to see quite a bit of volatility going through because of that, right? Here you can see the ES. This is just an amazing rally here now. Look at that. An amazing rally. And come over into the treasuries. The treasuries have been pressured overnight, but they are kind of reversing. We have the 7-year auction today, which is kind of an important spot because there's been a little, what do we say, a little bend in the curve there. So, we're coming over here to oil and gold. And that in gold in particular does not look too pretty. That does not look too pretty. And silver just looks ugly. All right, and then you get to copper though. Copper does not look good at the moment. Ooh, man, it's all over the place. Well, that's probably the reason copper's moving the way that it is. Hold on, where's my 6J chart? We need that on there. 6J gaining. It's probably because of the dollar, right? Well, so here is Bitcoin. Bitcoin having a good run over the weekend and into Monday. It looks like that was short covering, but they're really pushing to get the retail into it. They're really like, it's coming back, it's coming back. We'll see. May happen. Here you can see the dollar plunging. The dollar plunging. Well, that doesn't make sense because if the dollar is plunging, does that make sense with what we're seeing in copper? I'm not so sure, but now you are seeing a pretty decent bid in the treasuries over here. So I'm a little scared to do anything, to be honest with you. I think that the play I'm supposed to make here is to go short the treasuries, but I kind of feel like I already missed the move. Okay, I am seeing ES push higher though. That off the headline that talks will continue tonight? I don't know. See, this is what I'm saying. It looks like we've got a really odd setup here today. They're moving, but I don't know if they really have good, intel. That's odd. Okay, so let me pull out. I need to make sure I have financial juice on. We do get, no, I don't really have anything at 6:30 today. We do have Feds Williams speaking. We also, later today, we've got Harker and think there's a third one too. I don't see that on the list here anymore. And the 7-year auction. So, and house index is at the top of the hour. Okay, so they are indeed coming back a little bit here in the treasury, at least. We'll see what ES does. This is going to be a real mess. Yeah. Pentagon, we have not seen confirmation that units of the Russian army have begun to withdraw from the battlefronts around Kiev. I think they were saying that they are going to... okay, Russia, it will drastically reduce attacks around Kiev, reports the BBC News. That's why they're talking about that. First Squawk reports heavy shelling between Russian and Ukrainian forces in Irpin. That was 8 minutes ago. Okay, so corrected. Russian Defense Ministry to create conditions for dialogue will drastically scale down, not stop, military activity around Kiev and Chernihiv. Man, crude oil just got destroyed. Ukrainian negotiating delegation. We have not yet agreed on anything with the Russian side, and we have not received any approval from them. That was 30 minutes ago. Russian top negotiator Medinsky, a meeting of Putin and Zelensky is possible only if a deal has been rubber stamped by the foreign ministries. Kind of going back here in my feed. Oh, you know, I didn't put my eye drops in. Got some eye drops and I forgot to put them in. Do that later, hopefully. Hopefully that reduces the watery eyes. But you're not supposed to have your contacts in with them, so. I see the dollar pushing to new lows. The yield's actually not responding that much there. I mean, there was a 1 basis point move, but I don't know. So I've seen this before in 2 ways, right? First of all, there was a time period. Remember the first time that they had talks and people kind of thought that like, oh, they were going to come out with a peace deal or something and like nothing happened. But that one, they kind of like they rallied, and then I don't really recall them ever giving up the gains on that one, right? Another situation that really comes to mind now, though, was when China acquiesced on the whole trade war thing, and it was really just kind of like a reset until after the election and hope that Donald Trump loses, which is basically what happened, right? And on that day, it was like the markets really took it well, but then gave up its gains because of rumors because there was people that didn't believe that it was true. So I actually took a big loss that day going long. Okay, Carl Quintilla reports Russia's military said Tuesday it would fundamentally cut back operations near Ukraine's capital and a northern city, potentially a significant concession by Moscow since it invaded its neighbor more than a month ago. Yeah, so I think that stocks are optimistic off of these headlines that we are getting for sure. It is a little interesting to me that the treasuries are pushing up off of all of that, but perhaps it is also a sign of optimism as they are expecting less inflation because of that. And that is why the yields are backing off here today. Remember also, like we're at we almost touched 2.495. And Goldman Sachs year-end forecast for the 10-year is 2.6. So we're quite high here, and most of the analyst estimates for the treasuries are kind of saying that treasuries will be flat for the rest of the year. Oil is getting creamed there, man. in a situation like this, you don't want to get in front of it, right? So everybody's just going to get out of the way and let them take it, which kind of reinforces the, oh, yes, market knows that peace still is coming. But then if it doesn't happen, if it doesn't actually happen, it's going to be ugly. But hmm. So this is coming here in Discord. Let's see if they have anything on the interest rates channel. Hmm. Okay, the 2 and 10-year spread is unwinding quite a bit here too, by the way. There's another good little push there. It's only worth 5 ticks there, huh? Hmm. Well, this is beyond the level where I really feel comfortable trying to go with the momentum, especially since it really sucks to kind of sit here and watch it move without you. But we got to ask ourselves, in this situation, do we really have an edge over the rest of the market? I don't think that we do. Although I don't think that the market itself has the edge that it thinks it does right now, right? They're moving off of I'm not convinced. Yeah. Okay, chief negotiator says Moscow take military political de-escalation steps. De-escalation is good. Actually, de-escalation is probably better than I would have been hoping for. Even when I came out of the shower here, they were saying that they were going to have some sort of a press conference afterwards. So let's see here. Just in the 10-year, what do we get to relative to yesterday's levels? Well, point of control is probably a key price point that people look for, and that was 121.26 half, which is still quite a good clip away. So that I do think that we could probably take a short at 2.475 and eventually get a winner. I'm just concerned about the spot if there is some kind of a, vacuum sucks them, kind of like what just happened right there. Ooh, ooh. Carl Quintilla tweets, there will be blood, showing a chart of oil getting absolutely crushed today. Mining stocks rally over 80% Monday in a frenzy of speculation. HYMC was mentioned by Adam Aaron from his Oscars limo. What is that? What is HYMC? HYMC. Hollycroft Mining Holding Corporation from Nevada. Oh, is that after report of share sale? Interesting. So does that mean well, I don't think that we'll be able to see pre-market action, but let's see if that is affecting some of our EMF. There you go. Uncharted? Yeah, and they've kind of been just running sideways lately. Even if I change it to 5 minutes, yeah, they don't give you a free market data on that one. We know that silver and gold is down though, so that could be ugly for some of those mining sectors. 6J continues to push up despite the slight pullback here in the treasury. Man, look at that. 2.48 isn't terrible. So you get back to where these big transactions were, right? Man, HMYC is going pretty bonkers here today. Oh, let's get rid of this column. I don't need it. There we go. Okay, so big bid in the 30-year, and that is kind of where the pullback stopped. Do you see oil? They're all kind of shifting as well. The dollar continues to move down, but the oil in particular is pulled back from 98.5 back to almost 100. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so I'm hearing something from the news clocks, a comment from ECB's Lane saying that the inflation that they're getting is basically imported and that they still expect it to subside. Weekly. Is this the weekly VWAP test? Is this the weekly VWAP? Yeah. Or no? That 26.5 above us seems really interesting to me if this continues to move up, right? Hmm. Like what I'm seeing right now does look to me like a healthy pullback. Um, I don't know if 2.48 is where you take it, but so far I just see a healthy pullback. This could turn into much more. Like there's a problem is that this whole thing could flip on its head very quickly because we're not too sure if the news that they're trading off of is really all that good or significant or is going to hold, right? And also, you kind of got an odd situation here in the treasuries because, like, if there is going to be peace negotiations, then for sure you buy the S&P 500, right? But the treasuries have kind of ignored that stuff, and I'm not so sure that the cases that were being laid out by Citigroup, for instance, which was very, very aggressive, realized that Goldman Sachs saying year-end 2.6 is actually one of the more aggressive forecasts, right? But I don't think that they were making those forecasts based on, the Ukraine war is going to continue and is going to cause all these problems and stuff like that. Actually, if they thought that the Ukraine war was going to continue and there was going to be problems for it, we might be seeing a completely different market because Then that gets into fertilizer is going to cause world hunger and all that sort of stuff, right? Mm. Okay, so there they are, right, quite easily able to move to the top end of the range in the treasuries there. And push. Quite a few retail traders getting stopped out there in the micros too. And the 6J, man, the 6J is really moving. So tired? What? I just woke up. You can't be tired. My wife, you know what I think is so weird is I'll wake up, I'm getting ready and everything, and then my wife's, oh yeah, I had such a rough night and all this. I'm like, I was right next to you. I was sleeping next to you the whole time. It wasn't that bad. Hmm. Like when I woke you up, you woke me up. So like I just went right back to sleep. I don't know what the problem is. Unless you like sat there for like 2 hours afterwards and couldn't fall back asleep. ECB central bank 6 minutes ago. We do think that inflation will decline later this year and will be a lot lower next year and the year after compared to this year, chief economist Philip Lane says. To Political Europe. Politico Europe. Mm, mm, Biden will convene a call this morning with France's President Macron and Chancellor Scholz and Italy's Prime Minister Draghi. That new high in the Treasury did not last very long, did it? That was kind of like a little reach, and they weren't able to hold it for long. I think that suggests that there's still quite a significant liquidity hole behind us. That doesn't mean that we don't want to go with the trend, just that here is kind of a troublesome area. We would prefer, if we're going to take along, we would prefer to get it at the lower end of this range. I don't know though if you would really get 20. They still look pretty, and especially the 6J. Well, the 6J kind of pulled back there a little bit, so. Hmm. Okay. So I am now hearing confirmation from the media. I don't know if the trade is here. Oy. I am getting confirmation that the U.S. is seeing Russian forces shift. Fine. Oh, you know what? Didn't even matter because I didn't even have my account armed here. Didn't even have it armed. Yeah, didn't think so. Didn't think so. Okay. I think we're going to need to reset things just so we can even see what's above us. There's a big order at 24. It actually kind of matches up with the big order at 148 in ZB, although the one in 148 is at an even number, right? Okay. That entry wasn't too bad on an as she goes basis, although I certainly could have gotten a much better price, right? Actually, at one point, we probably could have gotten 2.48, right? I don't think that any volume traded there. Oh, actually, only one contract traded back there, so probably we wouldn't have gotten it. But yeah, 24 is a quarter. There's always. I tell you what, there's definitely something to the way that people congregate at even numbers, right? And in ZB, you got like the quarters will also do stuff at 20s. 16 is really the worst one though. Yeah, so you're seeing like uh very interesting and aggressive orders up there at the top. The liquidity is not really fighting back. That's kind of why it's being so messy, right? Yep, 16 is the halfway point. Yep. It, the worst is ZB. Like there's always something weird going on at 16 in the ZB because of it being the halfway point. Yeah, it gets kind of weird. Well, yeah, like I think this really goes is really supportive of the thing that we say all along that the market is very statistically efficient, right? So if there is a real aberration there, people tend to prefer even numbers. You would think your initial instinct would be like, oh, okay, so I should be able to make money somehow off of that number. Well, doing what Uzi gets in does and kind of go a quarter of a point at a time is kind of an interesting way of looking at it. That in and of itself doesn't necessarily give you an edge so much as it does kind of just tells you, hey, it needs to go at least a quarter of a point for it to be significant to me. So it'll kind of cut down on noise a little bit. But when you get to those points, what it means is that it just gets way more random there. It just gets really random there. And but what I'm seeing normally when you're getting like a really strong uptrend, right? You would see like some orders up here at the top kind of holding up and being like, you're gonna have to fill us, and then they break through it and there's a stop run higher and they push, and you're not really seeing that, are you? What we're seeing instead is a market where the market makers really don't want to be involved. And it seems like it goes both ways too. They don't really want to be so involved. They don't want to take a risk on. And so when they do make those new highs, it's kind of slippery, right? That's a good way to put it. Like I think a more clear way of saying that would be this. Um, the higher the time frame that you trade, the more likely you are to make profits. You might not be beating the index or have a very good Sharpe ratio or anything like that, but you're more likely to at least have profits the higher your time frame is. And if you're going by quarters of a point, then that really forces you to put up you know higher time frame. Okay, well that sucks. See, 2.47 or 2.475 would have been like a way better spot for me, right? Because there's kind of like this hole. There's like, if we do it right here, there's this hole right here, right? Maybe even down to here. So if we're really confident that we want to buy, it would be way better to do it down here. Although with the way that this moves, you do kind of have to wonder. I don't know how confident I am in the treasuries continuing to move up. I do think that 26 half is a spot that they're really likely to touch. But, you know, the treasuries could reverse on us. It's within the realm of possibility, right? I'm not confident enough on the news that we're trading to. Wow, somebody really hit that in the micro. You see that 224 at 46 half? And look at it go right back up to the highs so quickly. Okay. Yep. Touches a new high very easily. Very easily. So I'm noticing that the 6J and the treasuries have decoupled quite a bit. I guess that's not particularly surprising given how wild this action is. Kind of, it really puts into perspective, by the way, that we're basically touching yesterday's point of control at the moment. Few contracts went into it. Um, really shows you how far down they moved overnight. And that move overnight was maybe extreme, right? I'm not too sure I see why. Oh boy. MST, maybe that's why Bitcoin has been moving the way it has lately. MSTR closes a 205 million Bitcoin collateralized loan to purchase Bitcoin. Oh boy. Oh, we get red book here in a minute. Okay. That news usually doesn't move us too much, but let's just be aware. And there's kind of the messy pullback again. But this time more to 26 half. We might see more volume trade here at 26 half. Let's see. Wouldn't surprise me, frankly, for them to trade all the way to the other side of this range, like 122 above us, and maybe even beyond that. I don't know. Like, you come and look at the chart, man. The so that this was a point of control, and that we had this up here. That doesn't necessarily mean what is going to control this, right? What is going to control this? The number of contracts that trade it, right? But we have pretty significant news here, and we were expecting some bullish rebalancing today anyway. So we've got a 10-year auction today. Those are all kind of things that kind of favor the bull case. So I think that we have a good setup to have a lot of orders come through on this, right? And when we come back and we look at our metrics on the cumulative delta, how much have we moved on cumulative delta? About since the lowest lows, about 20,000. But if we're right, this is a day where the cumulative delta difference for the whole day is going to be like 50,000. Former New York Fed President Bill Dudley. On a report from Bloomberg Opinion, U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell has made two ambitious assertions about the central bank's management of the economy. In his latest news conference, he said that the Fed's new, more inflation-tolerant monetary policy framework bears no responsibility for the recent sharp surge in recent consumer prices. I agree with him, but let's see what he says. Then, the following week, he cited three historical examples, the tightening cycles of 1964, 1984, and 1993, as evidence that the Fed can achieve a quote-unquote soft landing, slowing growth and curbing inflation without precipitating a recession. I disagree with both. The Fed's application of its framework has left it behind the curve in controlling inflation. This, in turn, has made a hard landing virtually inevitable. That's an interesting take, though. I'm torn because I think that they both make good points, right? I think that... I think number one, that I think Powell is right that it's not their average targeting framework that has caused this. I don't think that the decisions that they've made over the past year would be any different with the change in that framework. Okay, but they are behind the curve. Can they still engineer a soft landing? Well, I think there's one thing that is favorable to the Federal Reserve in this situation. Okay, and that is that we are likely, assuming that the Ukraine situation goes away, we are likely to still be in a longer term deflationary environment. And that this inflation is, I think that I don't think it's fair to say that this is all just transitory supply chain inflation. I really think that the government propping up demand is really because it's basically like the choice is you're either going to get a recession or you're going to get inflation, and they chose to support the economy. They supported it too much and you got the inflation, right? But that still means that it's likely that those inflation forces subside, and then we could be back into a low inflation regime, right? And so that's why I think that it's at least possible that the Federal Reserve could engineer a quote unquote soft landing. Yeah. You know what? There was some volume at 26.5, but look, way more volume at 28.5 now. Way more volume. Actually, some pretty large sellers up there at the 29 area. Man, they got smacked down really hard in the 5-year off of that, but I'm not sure that any of that in this situation that we really have to be too concerned about it. Papyrus IQ tweets, in the US view, this is not a short term adjustment to regroup, but a longer term move as Russia comes to grip with failure to advance in the north. Russian Mod said Tuesday it has decided to drastically reduce hostilities in the Kiev and Chernihiv regions. Show this thread. Oh, okay. This was kind of the tail end of that earlier headline that we said that, which said that the U.S. is seeing Russian forces move. I kind of suspect though. I think that what may happen here. Yeah, there's 6,200 trapped at the high. That's definitely concerning, right? I think in the given situation, that 6,200 up at the high doesn't necessarily have to mean that the trend is over, but that is something that can stop it and that we need to keep an eye on. At the same time, it might also be something that causes us to gravitate towards that area over and over again. This is all really very interesting when you look at the chart. I mean, if the treasuries are like doing like a full on reversal here, then you would think that they would get above yesterday's high. Yesterday's high is like way up here, right? So I don't know. Can they make it up there? Okay. So according to Russia, the current round of talks are over. I'm wondering if what happens here though is what if they cease operations around Ukraine? They stop the attempt to take over the whole country, but what they continue to try and hold territory in the south. That they continue to try and hold like that whole seaboard, right? That could be still problematic, right? And in that situation, if they continue, particularly Mariupol, right, that's going to be the place that's going to become like the point of contention. If there's still activity around Mariupol, I think that the sanctions would probably remain in place, right? Certainly the headlines are positive, and it's likely to create some really strong trends today that I think could continue all day, possibly. This might be the end of it, but it's possible that they continue all day. In the longer run, though, it's probably a lot more complicated than the market is making it out to be at this moment, right? Okay. Well, 26 half has become the point of control here. So that's interesting. We caught up there. I didn't see, was there some icebergs absorbing at 26 half that I kind of missed? Because I'm surprised that there's like another 6,000 is traded there. Wow. AMC is up 40% today. Wow. Bitfinex just tweeted a ton of stuff. Oh, okay. So something that's been happening in the Bitcoin community is apparently Grayscale is going to sue the SEC for denying their ETF or something like that. And Bitfinex has just been tearing that apart by saying, "Look, here's all the things that you could do to resolve their concerns, and why aren't you doing that?" Well, probably you aren't doing that because there really is fraud going on underneath of the covers. And coming back up to the highs here. This is interesting when I think back to the move that we had yesterday. Um, I don't think that the little bump that we got yesterday was even half as big as this, but the change in yield has been about the same. What's with that? I think that my anchoring is probably just creating a bias in me. Maybe where I got in from wasn't actually that far away still. I don't know. S&P 500 has developed pretty solid range here around 4607. So really the trend has been much more consistent in the treasuries than the E-mini. So you probably would have made more in the E-mini. And you may have yet more to make when the S&P 500 opens, right? Especially if you own calls and the short stocks, right? What? Jake Paul offers Will Smith and Chris Rock $30 million to fight after Oscars dust up. Man, what? No, if I was Chris Rock, I wouldn't go for that because I don't think that Chris Rock would be very good at boxing. Certainly not against Will Smith, man. What's this? Good till canceled order eliminations for user-defined spreads to facilitate internal maintenance. Customers are asked to cancel all good till canceled orders for user-defined spreads by the close of Friday on April 1st. All remaining good till canceled orders for UDS will be eliminated by the Global Command Center after the close on Friday. That's for user-defined spreads. Not any of us. Interesting, though. ECB's Holzman has called for 2 ECB interest rate hikes and the end of negative interest rates later this year, warning that if the ECB does not act, it will be left behind in the fight against high inflation. Had a pretty good run up at the highs, but they didn't break through, right? Didn't see a whole lot of volume trade up there either. I think it was just the 96. Goldman Sachs says the yen isn't just a safe haven, its unique sensitivities to US yields sets it apart. We really could see some insane option moves in the equities. Alex Salvi, a reporter, says the Kremlin says Russia and the U.S. would need to have a dialogue on security sooner or later, but their relations will be inevitably affected by personal insults by President Biden directed at Russian President Putin. It's true. If there is a peace deal, normalizing relations between the U.S. and Russia will be very difficult with the things that Biden has said, won't it? But I don't know. If I was the president, I would have a really hard time not saying mean things about Putin either, because I think that he's an absolute maniac for doing what he did. Another iceberg at 29. Let's give it another 1,000 contracts, and that'll be a 10K iceberg up there. There you go. Okay, cool. 5, 6. Wow. Oh, they bust through it though. 7. Man, I really hope that was somebody just really trying to take profits, because they just blew through him hard. Hard. On that last push, did we see a change in the spreads? Not really. It was kind of flat across the board, except for the 2 and the 10. The 2 and the 10 is steepening back up considerably. Oh man, this even though yields are declining overall, the steepening that you're seeing here should be really good for bank stocks today. So what do you think about that, Octavius, now that they busted through to a new high? And that there was 7,000 that traded there the second time that they touched it, right? I think that most of the time you trade that many contracts up at the high that it's going to cause a pretty substantial pullback, if not reversal. But what all has to do with what the future orders are going to be, right? You say 122 is your final target? Well, so when I'm looking at this, here's what I'm thinking. Okay. Um, we had this move down. Wait. I gotta switch the screen over here. Okay. So here was this move, right? Okay. Post meta order impact. Then there was this move and opposing meta order, right? Okay. Now and post meta order impact, right? Okay. Now here was another big move and an opposing move. So we should expect to get above 120. Well, 122 would be, outdoing this price level right here, right? We're basically even with it a little bit above it. That's what we should expect simply because there's going to be a little bit of a wake since that's where we most recently went through. I don't think that the wake behind this one was too much, so I don't think that we should expect too far. But then you've still got all of this. So it is entirely possible. I think that 122 is a good spot, and we might rotate around 122 for a bit. But I think that it is entirely possible that we start retracing some of this up here. So that's kind of like the next benchmark to see what they do is like, okay, how much volume trades at 122? How far do they go through? So there they just touched 122. There's actually not that much volume holding on the offer there, which is actually a little unusual. I still think there will probably be a bit trade there though. 1590, I don't know, guys. That is not what I expected at all. There is a bid kind of pushing them in the 5-year. I don't know. They aren't slowing down at all there. So there's your answer, right? It's kind of hard because, again, it all depends on what the future orders are. And it's very difficult in this situation for us to predict. Well, I guess I did make a prediction, didn't I? Okay. The low of the day was 35. Okay. So if we get 35 and then another 15. So we've still got a good 10 to 15,000 contracts long that I think we could get. And then we would be to like a 50,000 contract swing. That would be really significant. That still wouldn't get me to some of the prices above us that I would think we can get to. But I don't know, man. Okay, so there they got a little bit ahead of themselves again. Man, talk about a trend. Well, talk about a trend though, right? Man. AMC is going to be a zoo today. I should probably go and put AMC in my video title just for the views. Still 15 minutes to the S&P 500 open, by the way. Yeah, they get back up there very easily. This should be good practice for us. Like we know we're in a trend, right? So the question is always how far is the trend going to go? That's the thing that we always have a really hard time with. And so I'm trying to kind of make some kind of predictions and metrics about how much volume we can get. So I said 50K. We're a good 10,000 contracts short of that yet. But it could even be 60 to 80K. Look at that. It reset my DOM. Look at that. Well, it didn't like it recentered my DOM rather. That's how fast it moved back up to the highs there. Oh gee. Okay, so there's a big order at 122.08, which is beyond that high from yesterday, right? Oh yes, well below that high. So the single prints from the Citigroup move start at 122.09 half. Yours a reset, dude. Isn't it just something else? What's going on with Mac? Well, I don't know what you mean. Is that another stock ticker? Dude, this today AMC. Okay, so what's going on with AMC? To my knowledge, there is no news. Um, from what I can tell, what's going on in AMC and GameStop is just short covering. But because we're getting such a strong bull move in the equities today off of these Russian de-escalation in Kiev headlines, um, like all of those high short stocks are just getting blown out, right? So yeah, AMC is going to be a Z. You see, that was a pretty aggressive sell there at 06, but I think that they're taking it in stride. It could create a liquidity hole there at 06. Oh, well, that's kind of interesting. One thing that you might see, I think a lot of people will try and wait for it to break the previous highs and then maybe try and short it again. But I don't know. Look at this. The ZB in particular is like really shoving it, right? Look at this. I can't believe that on a single contract that I'm up almost 60. What? And again, like here's I'm watching this, and here's the thing that like really blows my mind. We have a 7-year auction today, and some of the auctions have been bullish lately, right? So what does that mean for the auction today? This is going to be a very interesting day for us in treasuries. Hmm. Kind of have to wonder what is. I mean, we have to take profits, right, at some point, and looks like that we're going to have a steep pullback here. But where are we at, relatively speaking, for the largest micro winner we've ever had? Hmm. That was a really dramatic pullback. They're going to come all the way back to 122? Mm, no, O2 would be like the previous breakout. Okay, so the largest winning trade they ever had was 85. CB yabba yabba do. So interestingly enough, um, it looks like the yield curve flattened back out a little bit there, right? Yeah, that move at '06 really looks to me like a technical move, right? Break break the high and then pull back. That doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's over, but that certainly increases the probability of it being over, doesn't it? How many contracts net did we lose there? Oh, only about 1,000? No, no, no. We were at a 6. So about 3,000. About 3,000 contracts. In the 5-year it was a lot more though. Isn't that called edge? This kind of this technical move. I don't. I've tried testing. Here's the thing. I've tried testing. I know that that's the thing. Like I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I've had people argue with me about it. I've tested that exact setup and I wasn't able to find a good expectancy off of it. So I don't know. It does seem to me that there is often this thing where like there's going to be a big high level or whatever. They're going to go a little bit beyond it and then pull back significantly. But I think I'm going to chalk that up to just, you know, people believe certain things and you get opposing sides to the trade. But I think that the bigger thing here today is going to be the meta orders that you're going to get. How many contracts long are you actually going to have? Was this we were net negative 3,500. We are now net 2,000 long. At the high it was 6. So is this just a 40K move long? And then that's the end of it. I think that's what it really comes down to. And the reason you might say that they turn around at those spots is because that's just how many orders they had to trade that day. Just remember, S&P 500 hasn't opened up yet, right? This is going to get interesting. We're going to have to pull AMC up here, right? Because what those do on the open might tell us a little bit about how things are going here. Given how much AMC is up, I think it would be really hard for them to just like, oh man, look at the chart. Look at the chart in AMC. That's nuts. I knew there was like a 40% rise overnight, but like when you look at it on a relative basis, that is an insane move. Let's put it on a 5-minute granularity here. So we'll see. Oh, that's weird. Because that short rise was yesterday. Okay, that big move was yesterday, of course. Okay. So we'll see if they're able to extend that on the open here in about 3 minutes. Okay, so you're still seeing a pretty steady amount of buy orders coming into the treasury. Um, I think that probably these guys that want to buy are probably pretty happy about what just happened there, right? Because it's going to be they can kind of scale back and not be so aggressive, and hopefully be able to acquire more contracts at a lower price, right? So that means that we could continue to see some buying pressure through here, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a new high anymore, right? And it's actually been pretty flat here around 0.2002 half. So I'm assuming usually that you kind of already took profits, right? Or maybe you even got out at 0.6 half. When the net deltas during the pit session hit 30K, that's interesting. Oh, you haven't traded today? Interesting. Well, it would have been very possible for me to have not taken the risk that I did here on this trade and have not taken any trades today either, because I do kind of feel that some of this news and the market's behavior here has been a little confusing, right? Okay, so there's the opens. So far, initial move on the open in AMC is a sell. I don't think that that's too surprising. You definitely got to think that there's some people out there that are going to want to take some profits off of the open, but yeah, you kick yourself. Oh, well, I totally do it too. I don't know. I mean, I think that those are the two hardest things that I struggle with, at least, is number one, knowing how far it's really going to go, or having some good way of determining, how far I should let it ride. And then the second one is when to take the risk and when not to, because very often seems that when I take the risk, it's like the worst opportunities, and when I don't take it are the best opportunities. That happens a lot. And I have like periods like that where it struggles. Okay, so AMC pulled that out, and a new high there, and the S&P 500 is looking very, very good. Maybe I really should have gone in and gone, you know, YOLO in on MES. I'd probably be up like $300 by now. When did I? So let's see. I got in at 646. 646. Okay. So let's say I could have gotten 4605. So I'd be up $50. That's actually not quite that amazing. Man, AMC is going. Holy shnikes. Is GameStop doing similar? It's pretty similar. It's not quite as crazy, but it's pretty similar. I'm going to change the title. AMC squeezes yields drop after Russia scales back attack. I think if they get over 200 in GameStop as the price to watch, that was the highest strike so far this week. Ooh, really? They're not that far off from that though. Here, wait. I think we can do this. We can go yeah, where do I gotta do it from? Compare or add. So they kind of changed the interface a little bit. Oops. New pane, not new price scale. There we go. AMC Jamie. There we go. And we're trying 194. Well, they're not too far away from that, man. They're not too far away from that at all. Yeah, gamble on the gamma squeeze for sure. It's kind of been funny because from what I can tell, especially in GameStop, this entire move in GameStop is completely retail driven. Like it's happening completely because retail traders on the Wall Street Bets subreddit started buying calls and started making insane plays and making money on it again. That I don't, because everything else about GameStop, like all of the news and so forth, when they closed the first time, right, there was good news and stuff. The only piece of good news that we had was that after they, oh man, my heater's on. It's getting hot in here. After they had the terrible earnings and price fell, that the CEO bought more stock. That's the only positive action that they've had there. I wish I had realized that the heater was on there earlier because it got really hot in this room fast. Okay, well, pullback there. I'm not, well, the S&P 500 pulled back a little bit, but yeah, so when they opened up today, did they open up more strikes? I'm too lazy to come out here and open up my oh man. Okay, so my data reset there on me. So let's just remember 070 was high. Oops. Not OD, odd. Okay. Well, they had a really good first initial push, so it's not necessarily done over there, but it looks like it's going to be a wild ride over there in AMC. I can't really predict any at this point how that's going to sort out. The S&P 500, at the moment at least, that just looks like your average pullback to me. So. Like it will on the AMC and the GameStop one, like that's a tough call to make, right? Because the only thing that's going to let you know that it's going to happen is that you can see that people on Wall Street Bets are YOLOing into it, and that they're going to continue to do that. Because there's been many, many times where you saw them try and start that sort of thing, and it just never really went. Here today, I think they got a really good opportunity with the indexes being up from the Ukraine news, but the heavier they are, the harder they fall. Well, look, GameStop Actually, AMC has already broken lows for the session. GameStop is just about to. So yeah, once it fades. Yeah, like that's the thing is that well, so I think the problem though that you got if you're a short in GameStop right now is that especially now that AMC is participating cuz here's the thing. GameStop was always kind of like a I don't know. They have to restructure the company. I'm not sure if I'm sold on them being able to restructure that company successfully because even if they do restructure it, the restructuring that they're talking about, that doesn't sound to me like an obvious winner per se, right? Like it'll be a real story if they pull it off. It'll be hard, right? AMC on the other hand, that was a company that was not too bad before the pandemic and I think that movies from what we've seen so far with the Batman movie and the Spider-Man movie, I think that movies can recover, right? So I don't think that AMC should have been hit as hard as it was, right? I think that the people that owns AMC are a little bit less hype, right? A little bit less hype. But you kind of get this thing where when the news gets out, at what point does the wider public catch on to this and start trying to play it again as well? If they have a positive day today, so far it's not looking so good, but if they do end up having another really big run today, you could get that, right? And it could probably continue for a week or two. But then after that, probably they fade. Probably they fade. Did they halt GameStop after the drop? Didn't break new lows yet, huh? The way that the treasury is moving here, that kind of looks to me like it is, well, I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll draw it. Pretty good trend line, right? This move right here was just kind of got ahead of itself, came back to the long-term mean. So the trend in the treasury is still intact, in fact, despite it kind of looking a little scary here. This little bit of a liquidity hole that we have around the 02 to 04 area. And liquidity in the treasury is still very light. So if they decide to make another move, it could be crazy. Yeah, do you think that GameStop they when they open it back up, they could gap down? Well, the S&P 500 has returned back to where they were essentially right when we started streaming, right? Yeah, they did that before historically, but I think it's more complicated than that, right? Kind of a part of the problem is that part of how the retail traders have been pushing it has been with the options. So any kind of break that they get or like turn the other way really halts their momentum and makes it difficult for the retail traders to continue pushing it up, right? But I think that where they move probably has a lot more to do with the retail traders than it does these, you know, magical market makers and so, Citadel and all of the people that they always blame for when price goes down, right? I have to say though, if 200 was where the high of the strikes were, and they come that close and not bust it, that's really disappointing if that's really what it ends up being. Can the S&P 500 dig it out here? I'm a little surprised by the degree of the pullback in the ES. Basically came back to unchanged. Okay, they unhalted them and GameStop is gapping down even lower. Yeah. Well, you have to expect that these runs and pullbacks and everything are going to be really wide because all of the liquidity pulls, right? Just like the huge pullbacks that we're having in the treasuries, right? Like on this opening move, right? You have this initial push up, all of the liquidity in this area is gone. So it's very easy for them to push back through it. Again, if there's more buy orders out there and from this point forward more people want to buy than to sell, then we could still do this, right? It's just kind of questionable in this point how many more retail players are there to get in on this, especially when it does that, because a lot of the day traders might look at that and be like, that might scare them, right? But probably in that kind of a situation, our predictive powers are probably much more limited, right? Oh, I can't believe that they were. It looked like they were gonna lift 0.4 and then they got smacked down again in the 10-year. Let's see here. Where are we at on net deltas? 1500 still, huh? Oh, live action. I can't believe this. I was anticipating move off talks yesterday and I overslept today. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you know what, live action, I don't think that the story is all over. So just to give you a review here, we woke up this morning and stocks had risen considerably over the news that there was going to be a press conference at the end of the Ukrainian peace talks. A lot of people interpreted that as that there might actually have a peace still. But all of the information that we had suggested that wasn't going to happen. And that's not what happened. But markets were still up on that anyways. And then what we did see after the peace talks was that Russia has started to scale back its forces. So it appears that the net effect here has been that Russia has decided to scale back at least their attacks in the north, in Kiev. So the areas where I won't want to say that they've done well, but that they've held territory down in the south, and particularly, you know, the key point of contention is still going to be Mariupol. Okay, but it looks like that they have basically switched to focusing on that area. So what we're seeing today is actually not too different from kind of the headlines that we were getting yesterday, that Russia was kind of shifting their objectives and stuff, right? So I think that today is a really good day, but uh, um there might be more volatility to come because it doesn't sound to me like Russia is going to completely withdraw or anything like that. And there's going to be a bunch of argument over ceding territory and stuff, right? Yeah, convenient scale back since they were losing ground. Like think about it. The whole you come in and you say the peace talk, um, Russia gets to keep all of the territory that they've gained. Okay, so if that's the deal that you accept, what is it? What are you saying? What are you really saying? Okay, give Russia another 5 years and maybe they can try again and pull even more territory, right? If you're Ukraine, I think that you can maybe say that there's those areas, those breakaway republics. Maybe you can give those areas away. Maybe you can give away, um, sorry, I forget, Crimea. Maybe you can give away Crimea, but like Mariupol in particular, saying, "Oh, Russia gets to keep Mariupol," no way. So that's why I say I think today is a trend day, especially on the treasuries. It looks like today is going to be a trend day, man. Whew. But I don't think that I don't think that the storyline is completely finished, right? Okay, you got an okay little move higher there in the treasury. At the moment, though, S&P 500 still struggling to find a floor. Oh, a decent absorption there at 05 half, 3,000 contracts. Some upticks, but unable to hold it. We are seeing AMC and GameStop maybe showing some highs. So something that I always look at is, can you close above the previous bar's high, right? So if AMC were somehow able to get above 29.75 here in the next 20 seconds, that would be like super bullish, right? Doesn't look like they're going to do it. Yeah, Russia said to Ukraine a threat to the Black Sea. You know where they're gonna try and completely cut them off from the sea, right? Where's Uzi? Oh, he's been here. It doesn't. I don't think that he really took too many trades, but the real question here, Crypto Pop, is where have you been for the last hour and 30 minutes? Where we're having one of the best trends of the year in the treasury, and where are you? And cryptocurrencies have been popping too. So has what have they done here? Okay, so I need to kind of change my setup here. So we do kind of need to see the dollar here. I would expect the dollar to continue to fall today. Like I wouldn't put 90 getting into the 96 out of the range of possibilities in the dollar. And then he switches over to Bitcoin. Okay, so Bitcoin is actually not really doing a whole lot this session so far. In fact, over the last 30 minutes, hour or so, it's been a little bit of a downturn. Nah, but Uzi's a busy guy. Well, I'm not going to say busy guy, but he does have other things to keep himself occupied. Kind of seems to me like he does what he wants, but he has other things to do that rather than just talk to me all the time. On another note, I got a block report this AM for virus on it. For virus, what's that? That sounds interesting. Can you give me more details on that? The dude, the book in the 5-year right now is okay. It changed back. It was getting a little weird. There was like a big order there. There was a big order there. There was a big order there. I'm like, what's going on over there? But it evened back out. Dude, I have to say, I'm not going to make a call on the treasuries going higher here or not. I really hope that they do, because I'm essentially long the treasuries here. But the volume is coming through at a pretty consistent clip. It really is. I mean, it all kind of will come down to how much the offers, how stingy or not stingy, but how many offers want to stand in front of it. But I don't think that the market buy orders are going to ever subside here. Well, okay, they did touch a new high, only a few contracts, but they did touch a new high. Remember, there's a really big order there up there at 08, right? Oh, security software saying investing.com was a risky site today. That is odd. You know what? On stocks. So I'm kind of already have some exposure to this because I have Sumo Logic. I have to say, I don't think that Sumo Logic has been doing too well lately. Let's actually pull them up here. They haven't been doing super great lately, but they have risen off of all of this, movement. And I think that Sumo Logic, um, I think that they are a really good stealth um buyout play. You get what I mean? Like nobody's paying attention to it. It did get hammered with all of the other small caps, so it's relatively cheap to acquire, and they're a good piece of software. I think that their software is better than the Datadog software, and that's what I do for a living, right? We tested out Datadog. I wasn't too impressed with it. I thought that Sumo Logic was a much more comprehensive product, and Sumo Logic is like really building their stack out and getting more into monitoring and things like that with the purchase of um what is it called? I can't even remember the name of the software anymore, and we used to use it. Anyways, it's some monitoring software. So like I wouldn't be surprised to see some big tech company come in and just completely buy them out. And all of a sudden one day see Sumo Logic back up at like 16 or something like that. Just all of a sudden overnight. And everybody's gonna be like, oh darn, I missed that one, right? Like it's a really easy. I mean, it's super speculative, of course, because I don't have any reason to think that they're in discussions with anybody. I'm just saying, for a buyout opportunity, it's very attractive, and because metrics and monitoring and stuff is kind of the hot thing right now, I think that there's a good chance they could get bought out by somebody. And they do give you some exposure to cybersecurity, and there is a lot of concerns around cybersecurity, and that appears to be an area of the market that is heating up and has some room to run. Okay, so they are pushing more new highs now. So they're now 2 ticks above the previous high. And this trend is just turning into an absolute monster trend in the treasuries. And I mean an absolute monster. So remember, '09 half single prints. Okay. '09 half single prints. Watch what happens here as soon as contracts hit into '09 half. Or let's come here in ZB. What is it? Are we already to that point in ZB? Oh, I'm missing a little bit of data. It looks like ZB is completely recovered though. ZF, it's all the way up at 114.17. I'm not sure if we're as likely to get it on the short end of the curve, because on the short end of the curve, they're still going to be more concerned about that the Federal Reserve wants to raise rates, right? I hope Citigroup fixed income traders lost their ass in this squeeze. Me too, but I'm gonna bet I don't know if the Citigroup really participated on that. You got to remember, just oh man, you said one of those things that always triggers me. Remember, the analysts are not allowed to talk to the traders. They're completely different sections of the company. They're usually often in different cities. They are very strict about them talking to each other. Like it's like if you went and got on the research team, and then it turns out that you had a buddy in trading on the other floor, and from college, and you just realize that you're both there, and you start hanging out all the time, that one of you could get moved. Like that's how strict they are about it. They do not want you to be friends because of the chances of somebody crossing the wall. So I don't know. They're going to get the news as soon as it's released, and they'll be trading it in accordance with what their clients maybe want to do. So I don't know if the Citigroup fixed income traders really took positions off of it, but obviously there was some people that took some trades off of it and are getting creamed today, right? Or had some positions and are getting creamed. Wow, CL. Oh yeah, CL got really hammered, didn't it? I'm actually quite surprised that since we've kind of started this regular trading session, that oil has kind of held its own since then. But there's definitely some longs in oil that are unhappy here. I just hope, because again, I don't see any reason that any of these moves have to stop today. But I just hope that they continue through the week and that we close the week strong, right? Because these markets have been so incredibly volatile, and I don't know if I can handle things like, completely reversing again tomorrow and all of this volatility continuing for another month. Ugh. ZW down 85 handles. How big of a move is that for them? Well, you know what? When I'm looking at my market analyzer on an AMA relative volume basis, the most active one I have on my board is soybeans. Natural gas is actually up. There was a bounce off of the lows, and they're actually up. Natural gas, which is not what you would expect at all. Oh, I don't have a chart of soybeans up. I have corn, not soybeans. Soybeans is down 2%. Oil is down 4.5%. Silver is down 3%. 30-year is down 2.3%. That is some massive moves. None of the ones that are up, like for instance, the 6J up 1%. All of the ones that are up, it's actually relatively just okay. which is kind of interesting, isn't it? No, these are yeah, they are the moves you dream about: catching, free roll, no worry, swing. Yeah. Well, can you imagine if we had been awake in the treasuries and long from the treasury at like 05, right? Because this is already a $1,000 per contract in the 10-year. And in the 30-year, ooh, okay, so they were 146.26. So 148.26. That was in the ZB. It's well over $2,000 move now. They halted corn. Ooh, I can see it. Yeah. Oh man, look at that chart. Is scary. I mean, if it wasn't a product that we all need and that we would prefer to be low, I would be like apocalyptic, because look at that one. That is just like, whoa, that is insane. It's just like, it's just been straight down the whole time, and now limit down. Wow. What are the limits on these? So on corn, it must be 5%, right? It must be 5%. Well, I don't think that we're anywhere close to hitting that in the treasuries, but you might get it in, and I wonder what it is in oil, because oil is down more than 5% today. But I'm more curious to see what gold and silver. Gold is actually staging a comeback. Gold and silver are actually down a little bit more, like 20 minutes ago. And SPOO's kind of just being like, meh. Is the war over? I'm not going to say that the war is over, but it appears that the net result from the headlines that we've gotten today is that Russia will no longer be doing operations in the north of Ukraine, that they're pulling out of Kiev. So they're not pulling out completely. I think that there's still going to be hostilities around Mariupol and those south coastal cities. But this is a significant change from Ukraine. This is where it kind of gets interesting to me, because the pullback is like a really important and positive step, but it doesn't mean that the sanctions are going to get reversed, right? Navinder Singh might be getting a knock on the door because corn went limit down. You know what is so here's tell me about Navinder because he can't trade anymore, right? But I'm surprised that he hasn't like written a book or is like doing the well, I mean he's a little autistic, so maybe he wouldn't do public speaking, but Navinder, dude, you I'm not going to say that you owe it to the world, but I think that your knowledge and experience, even if what you're doing doesn't really necessarily work anymore, I think that the world could greatly benefit from your knowledge and experience being more public, and you should write a book. And I think that if you wrote a book, that you would probably make even more money than you were making from trading. I don't think that Navinder watches this stream, but that would be cool if he did. I've kind of shifted because at the beginning I was like, he spoofed and he deserved what he got and everything. But like the more that I read the story, the more that I really was like, yeah, he used to trade. He was having his market taken away from him by robots. So he started playing the same game that the robots did, and then it crashed the market and they threw the book at him. It's not really fair, is it? When you think about it from that perspective, not really fair. So he was basically just playing the same game that the robots were doing. But of course, he took it much further. But what else are you supposed to do? Because he has no choice but to, like in that situation, like if he could go back, what should he have done? What could he do? The only thing that he could do is just stop market making and move on to something else. And then what would have happened? I would have found out that all of that money that he made had been lost by the people that he'd given it to. Like, man, what a freaking, like, it's when you realize that, what a sad story, right? He really did not deserve what he got. But I say that the knowledge and experience that he has would be very valuable to the world, and that if he wrote a book, that he would make a ton of money, and that in the end he'll come out on top. I think. I hope he comes out on top in the end. And he might be the kind to be, a little bit shy about doing that sort of thing, and a little bit shy about having the public spotlight. But dude, if you're listening, just do it, man. The world would benefit so much from it. Yeah. You would be surprised who stops by your room. I've seen your topic of the day shared elsewhere the following day. Oh, I'm sure. Well, I don't know. Like here's the thing, live action. Where do you think I'm getting it from? I mean, I have the ability to come in and see the news and know what they're going to talk about, but I certainly don't come in here thinking that I'm going to be the only person talking about this, and so it wouldn't surprise me at all to see other people talking. And I do know that there are some other rooms that kind of try and hawk the edges that we post in the room, but yeah, that's what you're going to get from it being a public room, right? I've definitely seen some instances where like we'll post a headline or something that's like really niche and like nobody else in the market really hearing about, but ends up mattering. And then other rooms will try and paste it and act like, they were the ones that found the research. When they literally like copied what we posted here, like line for line, like our summary and everything. Yes, other rooms piggyback trading approaches. Yeah, that's totally the case. But here's the thing though. On the other side of that, have you ever heard anybody else talk about market microstructure? That's where it kind of gets really weird for me, because I'm like the only person talking about it, and I feel that knowledge is so valuable, really changes your whole perspective. But maybe that's the case that other rooms aren't going to talk about it because their users probably don't want to hear it. because a lot of the market microstructure stuff kind of suggests that a lot of the strategies and things that people believe are just dead wrong, right? Another decent pullback there. Hmm. Like, here's the thing. Can this continue into the auction? Another thing though is that I can see, like on my YouTube, I can see when people link videos. It's usually like if I do poorly, somebody will link the video in a Telegram somewhere. It's okay. Hey, it's okay. Doesn't bother me. If people want to come and watch me lose, that's fine. But I don't know. It just feels good to say that because it means like what we do a good job, even though we maybe don't necessarily always get recognized for it. And being recognized for it isn't necessarily the most important thing, even though we do want the YouTube channel to be more successful, right? But I think what happens in the long run is that market microstructure does start to get talked about by retail traders more, and maybe 5 to 10 years from now, we're the authoritative voice on that. Just because we're the first ones to be talking about it, right? I think that's what will eventually happen. Because the study and the empirical evidence on this is just so solid that I think that now that it's out there that people can only ignore it for so long, And I'm sure that there's plenty more exciting research. Oh, so did I tell you guys? I did not. Okay, so remember yesterday I was talking about how I had read this study where this guy had done a machine learning algorithm that is based more on tabular data, and he had used it on silver to some decent effect. It wasn't as accurate as he wanted it to be, but he was still getting a very positive Sharpe ratio from it. So I asked him what were like the explainers, like which elements that he was feeding into the network ended up mattering the most to the network, because there's a lot of discussion about how effective technical analysis is compared to order flow. And guess what? It was the order flow metrics that he was using that were the most heavily used by the model. But here's the thing, that's something I forgot to mention. What he's using, apparently the Shanghai exchange gives you minute by minute open interest data. So he's using minute by minute open interest data, and that was the thing that ended up being the most explanative of the results. So this whole thing that we've been saying this whole time, that like if you could tell if people were opening or closing positions, that would probably be a significant edge, and there's probably a good reason why we're not given that data. I think that's pretty positive proof right there. You just stuck it into a machine learning algorithm, and it performed really, really well. And you still want to have the technical analysis indicators on it, but they weren't nearly as heavily used as the other ones. So it's kind of like what we've been saying all along. It's like you don't want to ignore technical analysis, but this whole idea that you're just going to put one indicator on your screen and just take a trade off of that one thing, it's not going to be enough. And really, when you think about it, in as complicated of a system as it is, it really supports the machine learning approach, right? So I've been doing a lot with machine learning, and that's really encouraging. That says, yeah, you know what, we really do probably need to incorporate machine learning into our approach, because a lot of what we want to do on the technical side, is we're probably too simplistic. We really need something that can really go and find the intricacies in that technical framework that are beyond that which our human minds are capable of, right? Well, we had a pretty decent downturn there in the treasury, but they are holding it again and at the moment this just looks like another, hold, and they'll push higher, but who knows? We've still got a good 45 minutes left of the stream. We've still got a 7-year auction today at 1 o'clock Eastern time, which is going to be So interesting. Is that going to be like a they push up even more, or is that going to be like a, that's kind of the end of it? But another key thing here though, S&P 500 not really extending on the gains that we've had today, which maybe makes us, should maybe give us pause on the treasuries, shouldn't it? Okay, well, I can see that corn has been released and is trading back up a little bit. I don't know if that 715 still ends up being limit down and you can't go below that, or what the deal is there, but hmm. Hmm. 14. You know what? Um, oh, you never like that when you put an order out and a bunch of other orders pop up. I'm going to take the profits. 65 is what I ended up getting in the end. That pullback there was a little bit too much, and we did kind of reach my volume targets. It is turning down a little bit, but the thing that was really kind of making me think maybe we need to take this off is that the S&P 500 was not holding its gains. Gold and silver retracing, which is really interesting, right? What a ride in gold. I'm going to laugh if that dip below 1900 ends up being the right place to buy for gold, right? Okay, Russian Security Council official says we do not rule out preparing the West for provocative actions using weapons of mass destruction, according to Al Jazeera. What does this mean? I don't know. I don't know. Oh, I forgot about the consumer confidence. Consumer confidence number, they were expecting 107. They got 107.2. Jobs openings 11.266 versus 11 million. I don't remember hearing any of that over the news squawk. Is my news squawk not working correctly? I'm gonna reload the tab and refresh it. I think the spot that I got there is okay. I would have much preferred me to get the $70, but I could have actually gotten $75 at one point, but that's okay. So it is not equal to my largest winner ever, but it's close. It's close. That that gives us a much more life. That for sure gives us a more life here on this account. I'm not going to say that. I think that after that winner, I'm worried. We'll see how today goes. Maybe the S&P 500 bounces off of 4580 and then it ends up being just a all up after that. But I'm worried that the way that this sorts out today in ES, that this just ends up leading to more volatility again. Because again, the way that I see this kind of playing out is, yes, Russia pulls back. Yes, it's a positive development, but no, it does not lead to the loosening of sanctions. Right? Because then they're just going to fight over the areas in the south, and it's just going to be an even more dire and rough and tumble battle in the south. And I really don't think that Ukraine can afford to cede any territory to Russia in some sort of a deal outside of Donetsk and Crimea. And I think that that's what Russia's going to ask for, right? Interesting twist. Ukraine negotiators says Ukraine suggested new security guarantee system at Tuesday's talks. Ukraine sees Turkey as one of the main potential security guarantors. Man, that really came back in the treasury. Well, I definitely picked up on something there, didn't I? That's not to say that we necessarily have to start retracing this whole move now, but what I'm seeing here though, actually, you know what might be happening in the treasuries, because remember '09 half was where the single prints kind of the bottom of the single prints from the city move. So what's happening is we're still getting defense of the city move. And here's the question. Does this news in Ukraine, does that really change the situation with the Federal Reserve having to raise interest rates and the potential for having to, maybe even as many as four, as Citigroup was saying, 50 basis point increases in a row? Hmm. Maybe the city analysis still stands, and that could explain why at '09 half you would start to see defense get played. Let's rebuild, guys. Yeah, do not fall for the Russian propaganda on the biolabs. There's what I understand about the biolabs. Okay, I got to be careful here because walking on shaky ground when you're talking about these conspiracies and stuff. Okay. There are biolabs in countries all across the world, and especially in many third world countries and agricultural areas. Okay. So there's a lot of agriculture in Ukraine. So that's why they want to have them in Ukraine. There's a lot of agriculture in China, and that's why they have them in China. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to catch new novel viruses quickly. That's what it's all about. So that's why they're doing the research in those biolabs. Is the biolabs are there because they want to catch new viruses quickly. That's kind of like with the coronavirus thing. You don't want it to be going around for like 6 months and then you realize it's a thing, right? The faster that you can get on it, the better. And so that's why the US and other countries have funded creating biolabs in other countries all around the world. Okay. This whole idea that they're like producing bioweapons and all that, so it's complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. But I understand how, you can kind of see how Russian propaganda kind of takes advantage of it because they say like, "Oh, look, there's a biolab did exist. How can you explain that?" Well, nobody wants to sit and listen for the explanation. It's a complicated thing, right? Most people outside of the you know disease control and prevention field aren't really going to understand it, right? That's not to say that people in that field don't have some ideas about the way society should be run that I disagree with. It's just that there's nothing sinister about the biolabs in Ukraine. Man, 050. Now they're coming back to 04. You think they come back all the way back to 122? Well, so far I've saved myself about $20. There's no way I would have faded that one. How much of the volume is coming back though? About 5,000? Yeah. You know what I'm seeing right now is the volume that, remember we had that first big spike to '07 and then they really pulled back. And now what I'm seeing is that most of the volume that came in after they broke the new highs is coming back out. So that does kind of leave some question in my mind about whether there is truly some buy meta orders to continue to support us, especially since we did reach those prices from the Citigroup move and just the degree of selling that we've seen. And then on top of all of that, even more important, S&P 500 isn't really holding its bid. Gold and silver have reversed their moves. Even oil is kind of reversing its move to some extent. They're back to 102 after dropping down to 98.5. Right? So the last 2 years have cheated you. I get it. You know, here's the big thing that I think nobody people that one of the takeaways from 2020, or like one of the ways that the pandemic will affect people that you're not necessarily seeing people talk about because they don't realize that this change has taken place in them. But I really think that a lot of people, at least smart people out there, are realizing how little they really know about what's going on in the world, and um, that their ability to really truly know what the truth is in many situations is far more limited than they think. I think that the average person comes in and thinks truth is truth, and in all instances, I should be able to look at the information that's provided and know what the truth is. And I think that the reality is that in this world, the information has become so complex that we as human minds are simply not capable of processing it all, let alone having access to the information that we would need to be able to process to really come to a real conclusion. And I think that that's a little um, disconcerting to people, right? Especially if you're kind of more of the anti-government conspiracy theorist type of, or conspiracy theorist type of person, right? Because all of a sudden it's like, wow, the government could be doing all sorts of crazy things, and there's no way that I would ever know or be able to do anything about it. Certainly, there's some kinds of conspiracy theories that are out there that are just not plausible because there's no way that somebody wouldn't say anything about it. But I think the problem is that the kind of thing that the government might be doing that we might have real problems with would be so complicated that, like, would anybody even know to say anything about it, you know? Like, that's where it kind of gets wild. You have these things like what happened in 2008, right? That was a really complicated situation, but some people saw it coming, right? But you could see future financial crises where we just like the market's falling apart and we're just like, what the heck is happening? I don't get this at all, right? And that's probably going to happen to us many, many times over the years, because over the last 10 years, the world has become more complicated than the tools that we have are capable of dealing with. So now that I've scared you enough about the future, what do we think? They're touching 04s. I don't think those. Oh, okay. Those touches at 03.5 are legit. I think that that 03 was from before, and you don't see below that because that's my data has been reset. Remember that my data kind of like reset itself. Makes you wonder. It always kind of seems to happen when I'm doing okay, but it doesn't take very long to sort itself out. Brandon scares you more. This whole thing about Joe Biden ad-libbing that Putin shouldn't be allowed to stay in power, and then the White House furiously uh, pulling back what he said and doing damage control and everything, as I find a little alarming too, for sure. It's like, I mean, it's not like Donald Trump never did something comparable, but it really feels to me that like all of the things that people were always freaking out about Donald Trump doing are the things that Joe Biden is doing like every day. Like, you know what? And it's not ideology, guys. Don't it's not ideology. It's these guys are too old to be in there, man. Like there should be an age limit. There should be an age limit of like 65 or something like that. I think that we would be better off if our presidents were in their 50s. Late 40s to 50s. Barack Obama, like listen, Barack Obama did a lot of things I didn't like, but he handled the executive position well, and he enjoyed it, in fact, it seems. And I think that had a lot to do with the effectiveness that he did have in office. I don't think that he had a very good political strategy. And that kind of was what sunk him from becoming a truly great president. But he was effective as an executive. Yes, he was. Maybe some of his foreign policy, but that's more to do with the left, man. I really kind of what the left wants in foreign policy, I think is a little bizarre. Not saying that the status quo, war hawk, neoconservative way of doing things is the right way, but what the left wants just sounds absolutely insane to me. What the left wants, it sounds like, let's strengthen all of America's enemies and be mean to all of our allies and that. Ugh. I mean, Donald, that's like criticism people make of Donald Trump too, though, isn't it? But I guess at the same time, I'm not a foreign policy expert. Wish I was. This is an area that we deal with a lot, but I think that's one of my weaknesses. Well, we did pretty good today, though, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Where did I get short from? 6.7. Oh, that's so far back there. Wow. We actually didn't, I was kind of, when I took that trade, I was kind of like, oh, I missed this. I missed this. I missed this. It was only 10, 20 bucks. And for a move that ended up being almost $70, if we had played it perfectly, it would have been our best trade ever. But it was still a great trade. Yes, I've read that one out already many times. Live action. Yeah, but it's you get what I'm saying now, though, right? It's like it's definitely good. It's news that like we shouldn't rule out trend A scenarios. And even still at this moment, I don't think that I can rule out trend A scenarios. But in the longer run, I'm not sure that the knee-jerk reaction of the indexes here tells the full story, does it? Meeting continues tonight. I don't think that this means that tomorrow there's going to be a peace deal and Russia just pulls out and everything goes back to what it was. I don't think that's the case. And then all of the sanctions are dropped. I hope that's the case. If that's the case, then whew, could be amazing, right? I don't think it's that simple. Let's check up on our meme stocks. Well, AMC and GameStop took the dive after the initial push, but they do appear to have found at least short-term floors, and they seem to be doing okay. The S&P 500 is trying to make a push. So I think at this moment, we really need to decouple ourselves from the equity treasury relationship. What the treasury is doing seems to be very disconnected from what the S&P 500 is doing today, right? We could continue to see the treasuries move down and the equities reverse and end up higher in the end. We'll see. I think you're right. I'm only trying to put the man, like, here's something that I struggle with think about a lot, is that if you come out and you make these huge proclamations and you're really confident about it, people listen to you, right? But if you really know what you're doing in markets, you know that it's really dumb to be confident about something like that. That really it's really hard for us to know almost anything a lot in markets and when it comes to foreign policy and everything. So I don't want to come in and make a big proclamation that like the war isn't going to end and that this is all just going to reverse tomorrow and yada, yada, yada. I'm just calling it out as like there's a risk that we should be thinking about, right? It's a risk that we should be thinking about. That we continue to have a trend day up is another risk that we should be thinking about. Because my job, or what I'm trying to do, not my job, but what I'm trying to do is to be successful as a trader and to help you guys become successful traders so that you can help me become a better trader. And this is all a group effort, right? Even though what is a successful trader and how well we actually do it's a pretty hard thing that we're doing, right? But that's the goal, and we're going to continue to be here and doing it in one way, form or another as long as we can. That might mean from times that we have to change things around. That might mean I'm much less about like I need to take a break. Remember, I was saying like maybe we need to go into a period where I don't really stream very much and I just make videos. I think that a couple of things. Well, first of all, I think that I pulled myself out of that rut was one thing, but also, you know, we're going on vacation next week, so I'm gonna have a whole week of vacation to think about this sort of stuff. And I don't think that it's necessary for me to do that. I'm hoping that on vacation I'll be able to write a couple of videos. I have some ideas for some videos. I think that they're kind of more popular topics, but I think that they're ones that we really want to go into detail and talk more about. Because I think that I need to make my channel more into a like any question that anybody ever asks me, there's a video about it somewhere, right? Like we talk a lot about gamma and end of month positioning and things. And I think that newer traders will come into chat and be like, what the hell is he talking about? We need to have videos on that stuff. So I'm going to try and write some scripts for that stuff over the next week. I also went and purchased study materials to try and become a certified financial advisor so that I can invest in hedge funds. So that's what I'm going to be spending most of my week on. Although, I don't know. So when I looked at like the price of the materials and everything, I was like, well, that's not too expensive. And it doesn't sound like the test is that crazy. But then I started going into the materials and I read their guide, and their guide was like, okay, you read these chapters and then you read these chapters, and this should be, and this should take you 4 weeks. And I was like, oh, well, okay. But if I'm doing this all week next week, like I should be fine, right? But they were talking about like reading for like 4 to 6 hours in a day. So maybe I won't get it all done while I'm on vacation, unfortunately. And then after vacation, maybe it takes me a month or two to get through it all. But don't let me give up on that one, right? Because I'll have a tendency to like do all of the study and then not get the cert. So we're going to do this one. You hold me to it. I purchased the materials. I'm going to do it. Hawaii now open. Maybe I should go to Hawaii. You think we'll see 122? Kind of looks like we're going to see 122, guys. Kind of looks like we're going to see 122. Remember, I got out at 403, right? So we're, a good $20, $25 or so. Pull back. Okay, well, the S&P 500 did have a good swing up. They're already turning back down. So here's the point where we see, like, do they higher low and then push up and the rest of the day ends up being a bull day? Do they dash through the lows again and push even lower? Or does it chop around here down at the bottom forever and just frustrate the heck out of both sides? Is always the there's only like so many ways that it can go, but which one is it actually going to do? I don't think I have anything that really tells me solidly what the S&P 500 is going to do. I'm really surprised that they've struggled as much as they have. I'm really surprised that the E-mini has struggled as much as it has. Okay, well, we got about 20 minutes, so we should probably come in and check some news, right? I'm still not really hearing anything from my news squawk, nor am I seeing anything super significant on the Twitter side. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken 17 minutes ago. I can't say that the statement from Russian Deputy Defense Minister reflects a reorientation by Russia, but we have had some confirmation that Russian units are moving, right? If there is like a full peace deal, dude, if it's like, okay, we in Russia are not concerned about this anymore. We're not going to take any territory or anything like that. There's just going to be peace, and there's going to be a security guarantee. And as long as Ukraine doesn't join NATO, everything is hunky-dory, goes back to where it was, I should invest a few thousand into Ukraine. Don't you think? I think that could be a compelling buying opportunity. I'm curious to know what your main style are you mainly a DOM trader? My particular edge is TPO and volume profile. Okay, so yeah, thank you for the question. Came at a good time because if you'd come like 15 minutes later, we'd probably wouldn't have enough time to cover this. When I talk about what my style is, it's a little hard to explain to people because most people, when they talk about their style, they're saying, okay, you use this indicator or these are the setups and the kinds of things that you're looking for. Like you're talking about TPO. So you're probably going to be looking for things like single prints and what the point of control was and where we're opening in comparison to the previous day's point of control and the weekly levels and all of that sort of thing, right? And I don't approach the markets in the same way at all. So the way that I would say that I approach markets or like the underlying theory that I use is that all that matters is the future orders. So we need to look for things that will predict future orders, and we need to watch things that allow us to understand what the current orders actually are, so that we when those future orders hit the market, we will understand how the market is probably going to move based on those orders, right? So that means that I can't just use past prices and price levels and volume to make my decisions. I really need a little bit of everything. So I'm going to look at certain things from a technical analysis perspective to try and understand how much trend versus mean reversion or autocorrelation there is in the market, right? I'm going to look at the DOM because the DOM really gives you the best picture of what the current volume actually looks like and what the liquidity conditions are. I'm going to pay a lot of attention to breaking news because breaking news can very effectively predict future orders. I'm going to pay attention to certain kinds of monthly cycles. For instance, like there are certain rebalancings that will happen at the end of the month. There are certain rebalancings and so forth that will happen around options expiration with gamma and so forth. Those are all things that we want to look at. There's like a whole list, right? The biggest one is people's changes in expectations about future fundamentals or future orders. That's the most important thing, right? That we're going to look at to predict future orders, right? So when we talk about approach, it's kind of a little bit of everything that works, right? But if I was to consolidate it down into one idea, the idea is, and this is empirically backed, is that what we're trying to do is predict future orders. To have a positive expectancy, you have to have something that is effective at predicting future orders. And our typical sort of a thing of like, we're above yesterday's high and all that sort of stuff, that gives you a lot of good levels to look at and benchmarks and, can maybe help you sort out why they're turning at certain levels and stuff like that. But all of the research that I've done shows that those don't really give you very good outlays, right? When we're doing things right, we're going to catch moves where our losers are like $5 to $10 and our winners are like $30 to $50. And we're winning more than 50% of the time when we're doing things right. If I don't understand the market very well, I can lose every time. And that was happening to me last week, right? It's a really hard way to trade, but trading is hard in general overall, right? I think that this kind of approach, you have more chance of success, but excuse me. That's what it is. But that's how we approach it. And if you were going to start, I mean, I have a lot of videos in the channel, but the last two videos that I put out about the stylized behavior of markets and the inelastic theory of markets, those are the most important ones to watch. And you understand those things, it's going to completely change your approach to markets, okay? It's empirical data about what the market really does. Humble Trader gets a lot of, well, I get a lot of the clicks. So like my most successful video was the one on computer hardware, right? And I had that one out for a little bit. And then she made a video about making a new computer. And my video ended up being one of the videos that gets recommended the most after that. And that's where a large portion of my traffic has come from. Yeah. So I haven't really found a subject where I've really been like, oh man, I really need to try and piggyback on that one yet, but I'm always kind of on the lookout for it. If you see one and you think we should try and make a video about it, then tell us. But for the time being, I have a video about computer monitors that I kind of need to finish. I probably should make extra sure that I get that out on Monday, because I'm going to be out next week, right? Won't be here next week. We're going to be on vacation. I'll be in Discord and stuff, but won't be streaming all next week. But I should make sure that I have the monitors video out for you guys, so that the channel activity doesn't just completely die, right? And then after that, I'm hoping to write a couple of scripts about gamma hedging and end of month flows, and I have a couple of things listed there on that sort of stuff. So I hear you. Thank you for elaborating. How many years have you been using this umbrella? Okay, so that's a really good question too. So I've been trading overall futures since 2016. Basically, like shortly before the 2016 election is when I've been watching the DOM. Okay, I never watched the DOM before that. Before that, I've been watching markets since 2008. But I was never actively trading before that. I couldn't. I worked for a bank, right? But 2016 was when I stopped working at the bank and I turned around and became a futures trader. But the kind of view that I'm looking at now, I really kind of started to make some of those adjustments towards relying more on breaking news. I'd always incorporated news a lot into my trading. But it was around 2020 when I started to say to people, it seems that price on its own is very ineffective at predicting where it's going to go. But then it was about, sorry, News Squawk is talking in my head and kind of disrupting my thoughts. But particularly the inelastic theory of markets. So we started to learn more about market microstructure in late 2020, early 2021. And then the inelastic theory of markets paper came out in August of 2021. And so I've really been focused on the inelastic theory of markets since then. So really briefly, the inelastic theory of markets basically states that a change in price does not affect the supply and demand of stocks very much. If you have high elasticity, that means that price rises, that demand is severely curtailed and supply increases considerably, right? But if the market is inelastic, that means that it comes up and it doesn't really change. And when you kind of go through the data and how they came to that conclusion, it really, really makes sense. And I think that puts into question a large portion of the way that a lot of traders try to trade, in particular support and resistance. The idea that supply and demand dynamics can be applied to stocks, that directly contradicts that theory, right? So that's why when I'm coming in here and looking, I'm not thinking, okay, is this price going to be resistance? Is this price going to be resistance? Maybe this 09.5 is going to be resistance. They're going to break above that and then they're going to reverse or something. I don't think of it like that. I think of it as how many orders are going to be triggered by this particular event, right? And the number of orders that come in, that's going to determine how far it goes, period. And today we did a pretty good job of predicting that, actually. Oh, you were recommended to me by somebody from another Discord. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I don't always trade well, but I do think we're having this discussion on the Futures IO board, right? Because when you look at people, like my conception of like a successful trader is like a Sharpe ratio above 0.5 over 5 years. I don't have that. I don't know anybody that does. You're probably only going to find a handful of people that do. and they're probably not going to be very public about it, right? But I do know a lot of things that are empirical, that I can give you evidence. I can show you the papers and the data that they're using to figure this stuff out, things that you can rely on. Maybe the truth is even more complicated and nuanced than what we have in the papers, but we do have empirical evidence to base our current understanding on. And further evidence will only make our understanding even better, right? And I have a lot of information in that vein that you're not going to hear anywhere else. And I really think that I can save you a good 5 years in your trading journey. Okay. That's not going to get you, I wish that was what got you over the curve. Okay. But I can save you a lot of time, and that much I can say with confidence. So, and Live Action's right. You have some good traders in your room. I do. Live Action is a great trader. He's shown me some pretty amazing things. Uzi's a great trader. I don't remember. I think Lafta, you've shown me some trades in the past too, haven't you? I can't remember anymore. I'm just looking through the names that have like spoken today. And we've had people that were like really good traders that have come and gone. But Octavius, he's never shown me any results, but I have to say he points out some really good stuff. Like he is right here with us watching the treasuries. He's been participating with us in the futures, when we're talking about traders watching treasuries, myself, Octavius, and Alligator in Discord, I think that we're the most active public people doing it. So well done. Thanks. Well, it was in the micro tenure. It wasn't in ZB, but it was. I'm really when I took that off, I was really stressing, like, I'm going to take it off and it's going to go further. Right. But these last 2 moves that I've made, the move that I made yesterday too, I was able to pick really great exits. So I think I'm finally starting to get a little bit of a hang about when I need to take these off. By the way, this move that we've had on the backside is another great example of the inverse. There's the square root law of meta order impact, and then there's the inverse law, right? Which is if you have a large meta order. So look at the deltas right here and right here. Okay. So from here, we started here, but now we ended up here. Why is that? Because this move right here, well, really this whole move all the way going up here has left a large liquidity wake behind us. So if you get the same number of orders turning around and selling, it ends up moving it further because of the way that the liquidity behind us had been disrupted. You made good money with CL? Good. I'm glad somebody made money off of that, because that was... when I came in and I looked at oil, I was like, oh man, was that the top in oil? Because that was a nuts move. Is that the conference? It's not really the top in oil, is it? Because if we come back, let me minimize that chart. Anyways, inverse sine law, proven empirical behavior that markets show. And we had a really great example there. And that's why when you're getting these trends, I never feel comfortable, because I know that if something turns around, if somebody comes in and starts taking it the other way, it's going to go back faster. And so I've always got to be aware of that. And that catches me so often. Okay. When we come in, we look at oil. Okay. It's not the top, because the top would be up here, right? But from a charting perspective, what are people going to see? Oh yeah, higher low, and then probably we can firm lower low like tomorrow or the day after. So when I saw that move, this move right here, I was like, was that it? Did we miss it? I don't know, but maybe it heats back up tomorrow. It can totally do that. You would think that a piece of news like this would reduce uncertainty, but I kind of think that the way that it played out and what actually happened in the overreaction from markets really just makes things more uncertain, doesn't it? Good day, but over-levered? Let's see, what did you do? Let me look at your results. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, you over-levered. The 36 fills, but still, like, think about that. Like, Here's a metric that if you're gonna trade multiple contracts, guys, always come in and do this. So Salim here, he did 4875 on Sim, and he took 36 fills. So that means that he did 18 trades, right? 18 contracts max. So he made 270 per contract. That's not terrible, right? Was it in, and it was in, ENQM22. Okay, so that's the regular NQ. So it could be better, but I totally understand why you say over levered, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was just kind of average, maybe a little under average. I'm not sure. Because I'm not sure what the average rotation in NQ is. I forget. That they were turning back up here. Yeah, a little bit. The S&P 500 did print a higher low and now a higher high by a tick. So it's still possible to see a rally in the end in ES. Let's come back and look at our meme stocks. Well, that's not terrible, especially if AMC could get back to like the 30 range, which is only a hop and a skip away. I don't know if the other trades would help. Probably what you need to do, though, is look at the last, well, like let's say from the start of the year, because you've been doing this for a while, right? From the start of the year, what the stats are overall, especially the Sharpe ratio, because probably for you, the Sharpe ratio might be low, but we don't want it to be too bad, right? Like if your Sharpe ratio comes out to be like 0.1, then maybe we should scale you back a little bit, you know? temper those big risky moves. Well, family. Oh man, he's already calling us family. Thank you so much. I'm always open-minded when it comes to approaching markets, read most of the gospels in the space, and have just been building up my style and continuing education. Yeah, dude, I'm like, I don't want to like oversell it, but the proven stylized behaviors of markets, I'm going to teach you stuff that you haven't heard before and is empirical and will be the gateway to a whole new world that you'll be sitting there going like, why haven't I been doing this the whole time? Why doesn't anybody talk about this? Everything else that everybody talks about in the trading space is complete bullshit compared to real, proven, empirical, peer-reviewed science that like large institutions have been using for decades now. And retail traders don't talk about it at all. And this is the advanced knowledge that I've wasted years looking for. I don't want to oversell it, but that was how I felt when I came across this information. And at first, I really tried to keep it to myself. I really did. For a long time, I kept it to myself. But the further along I went, the more I realized that, one, me sharing it probably doesn't reduce the edge that these things have, and that society needs to know them. It could be that in the long run that sharing this does make things a little harder because retail traders will get a lot better if they knew all of these things. But I think that society needs to know this stuff because I'll give you an example. In Joe Biden's budget, they want to tax unrealized capital gains. Well, in this a large portion of the research that we're talking about is like, if you sell X shares, how much is it going to move the price of things? Okay. And when you start going in and you look at how much stock Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and all these guys would have to sell for these new tax plans, it would demolish the market. I mean, it would just be absolutely devastating. And see, the larger financial world doesn't understand this thing that orders move markets, and this is how you can factor out how much an order of this size is going to move the markets and stuff. They think that like if the fundamentals haven't changed, then the price of it shouldn't change, right? And if Jeff Bezos sells, therefore the fundamentals haven't changed, so it shouldn't affect the stock price. That's kind of like base that they're working off of. So if they knew what we knew, if these Democrats in Congress proposing these laws had taken that education and knew the math behind it and everything, they wouldn't be proposing these things. They wouldn't. And it would lead to a lot of other changes in the markets too. A lot of changes that I think that Democrats would be very, very happy about. So there are a lot of things that I kind of agree with Democrats on that I think people would be surprised knowing how conservative I am. But I only say those because that's what the evidence says. Can I plug Journalytics to QTrader, to which time I still day trade the close? I don't know how that works, to be honest with you. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. I only got like a minute. I'm pretty sure that you can get it off of anything, but I don't think that it connects to QTrader. I think that it would just connect directly to Rhythmic or something like that. I don't really know. I don't know how they do that. How do they get that? I think I need to come back into here and be like, Jigsaw Day Trader full platform. If it doesn't have documentation here, then I don't know. I'll have to keep looking. Manual and install guide. No, they don't have a section about Journalytics over here. So I don't know how they do it. Maybe jigsawtrading.com, the main thing. Or we can just look real quick about trade analytics overview. I want cookies. Doesn't say anything about compatibility. I don't know about that. You might have to email Jigsaw. Journalytics is really very valuable though, so if you can get that to work and you're willing to pay for it every month, I would absolutely do it. So those being able to see those kinds of long run stats, I think, are absolutely essential to longer term success. Yeah, Forex Live tweets, Russia's top negotiator says de-escalation around Kiev does not mean ceasefire. And FedsHawker says interest rate hikes be deliberate and methodical. Okay, well, we're continuing to see declines here. Maybe that we come all the way back to where we had taken our original trade. I would be careful about, in 2 hours, there's the auction for the treasuries. And I don't know which way that's going to go, but you might see some crazy stuff around the auction. I think that today I made more than my fill. So, guys, I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay profitable.